Hi, Y11. So this is the approach that we're going to take to talk through, however you want to describe it, looking at a translation. I'm going to preface this with this being a really, really difficult translation, and I did hum and ha over whether, oh, should I give them it, should I not? But I've just gone with it because I think we need to have a bit of experience of seeing a little bit of everything so that we can be as prepared as possible in the exam. The translation into French will be in the writing exam. It's the final question, and it essentially does two jobs. It's testing your knowledge of vocab, which seems really obvious. And since we've been back in September, I've gone on and on and on and on about the importance of knowing vocab. And so much of this does come down to, do you know the word or do you not know the word? And here, more than anything really, it should feel pretty stark and pretty obvious as to whether you know something or don't. Secondary to that is demonstrating your knowledge and understanding of verbs and grammar. Um, and I'm going to talk through each section. I'm actually going to talk through verbs and grammar first because that is the bit, actually, it can be a little bit smaller. There's an element of knowing vocab linked to the verbs and grammar, but verbs and grammar can potentially be a smaller part of it. So we're going to do that first and then move on to knowledge of vocab in general. What I would like to see, I gave you a choice of two approaches to this. You either have a go at doing the translation and then you use what I'm going to do here to self-assess and mark it yourself, or you watch this first and then you annotate. So I want to see like annotations and notes on the translation as well as the translation into French itself. So those are your two options. I'll show you what I mean by the annotation as I go through each stage. So, first things first, we're going to consider the verbs. So the first job that I'm going to do is I'm going to just run through here with a highlighter, and I'm going to highlight every verb that I see. So I've got rubbish is, that is a verb, is a verb. A serious problem in my area. People throw away lots of things that pollute. So there's another verb, the earth. Last year my village threw away, so I've had throw away, now I've got threw away. 100 tonnes of rubbish. In my opinion, we use too many plastic bags. I would like to produce, so another two verbs there next to each other. Less rubbish, and I am going to buy green products. Right, those are all of our verbs there. Now, what we need to first do is just decide, do I actually know what those are in French? Some of them are more difficult than others, and what the examiner is actually trying to do is they're trying to give a breadth of coverage of lots and lots of different grammar points, which I'll come to in a second. But first and foremost, we just need to make a decision of what we know and what we don't know. So we've first of all got is. I'm writing this on my little lockdown tablet, which isn't great. So we've got is. We've then got this verb, that is an H, throw away. I thought this would be better, but it's not. We've got pollute, use. Would like, I'm going to leave separate. We've got produce. Wow, it's so bad. And then we'll come to that as a separate thing, and then we've got buy. Now, what we need to think, I'm going to underline would like, and I'm going to underline am going, because we'll go with those separately. Is an easy one. It's going to pop up at every point, and it's just going to be say, because we can use that in any situation. It does mean it is, but colloquially and commonly in French, they would use that all of the time. What we then need to do is look down this list and first of all, see what we know. And I'm going to be really honest with you, a lot of the stuff here we don't know, and that is fine. So throw away, we've seen it in passing, I think, but we don't know it. Pollute, we don't know. Use, we should know, so I'll come to that in a sec. Produce, we don't know. And buy, we should know. So use should hopefully be utiliser, and buy should hopefully be acheter. And then the other three here, and actually translators who work in industry do this anyway. They access loads of different materials. It's very rare that you do translation from memory. actually unless you're an interpreter working in a quite high pressure situation. So looking stuff up is absolutely fine. However, the purposes of an exam, we need to have that knowledge in the first place of what does this thing mean. So throwaway is a funny little phrase that weirdly does come up a lot. It's jeter with er, as in like you, I don't know, jet, you throw it, something flies through the air, something like that. Pollute is not too far off, so polluer, there's no T, polluer. And then produce is produire. So again, not too far off, but we're nearly there. So we've worked out, we know what the things mean there first of all. Then we need to go back to the translation and we need to make a choice of the tense. Now there's a verb star just down here on the right, and in the exam, the examiner is trying to test you on basically different bits of the verb star. The most common will be present, the perfect, and then often a run of the different futures. Imperfect comes up sometimes it doesn't. There's no imperfect in this one, so we don't need to think about it. But it's either going to be a near future, a will future, or a conditional, and actually very frequently both. So in here there is actually a bit of both. We've got a would like, which is conditional, and we've got an am going, which is the near future. We've also got a perfect, and then the rest are all just in the present tense. So if I can't change my colour actually here, so we need to deal actually with jeter as being the one that's got the most going on here, because we've got it in the present tense here, so we've got to throw away, also in a plural, just to make it really fun for us. This is why this specific translation is quite tough. We've also then got threw away, which is the perfect tense. So we've got one verb that we need to do two things with. Pollute, we've got to do that in the present tense, so things that pollute. Use is also in the present tense. Produire is an easy one because we're going to just actually use it in the infinitive, to produce. And then actually we've got the same thing here with to buy. So both of those are actually just going to stay as they are. We don't need to do anything with them. If we start and work our way through, jeter is going to be the most difficult one. So we've got throw away. This is absolutely wild. So we need to do people, which hopefully we know as les gens. We're going to keep that les in. So les gens. Now, the trick that we have here is, the nice thing, these are all regular verbs. So they're all going to follow the pattern that we would expect them to do. So this is going back to knowledge actually from year 8, year 9, in the present tense. So les gens jettent. So we're going to go J-E-T. Now, tiny thing is we're just going to double T it. You wouldn't lose marks if you didn't do that. And then my ending needs to be the plural, so the eel with an S and L with an S, if I just write it on here, eels, if you want to say it like that, form of the verb, and it's going to be ENT. So it's coming back to this AESE or an SEZENT malarkey. And that will sort us out for that when we come to do the final translation. Here, the threw away bit is going to be pretty difficult because it's going to be my village. If I work backwards, perfect tense, we need to do the past participle, which is going to be G-E-T and E, just with that accent on, jeter, like that. However, we need to make, this is really tough, so I'm just going to give you it to a degree. We need to do my village, so it's going to be mon, and village is actually just the same word, it never is ville, mon village, and I need an extra element in here, and it is actually just going to be the letter A. À jeter. Mon village à jeter. That's really, really tough. I'm not going to go into too much depth on it. It's really, really hard. Polluer. We need this now in the present tense, and it is just going to be a singular. So, oh, actually, it's not. It's another. Guess what? It's another plural. So it's going to be pollu. And actually, that ENT is back again. So things. Plural qui pollue. ENT. Utiliser, we've got we use, two options here. We can do on if we want an easy ride. So on is going to end in utilise, just with an E. We could also use nous, which is going to be utilise ONS. Nous utilisons. Two options there we want to choose. And then we've said here, these both can stay as they are. The last bit then we've got is I would like. This is an absolute core little phrase. So we need je. There's two options, but I'm just going to do one. Je voudrais. I would like. And I am going. Everybody's favourite song from year 9. Je vais. Tu vas. Il va. Blah blah. All that kind of thing. So I'm going. So now actually we've gathered together the entirety of the grammar that we need. What I'd like you to do at this point then is, could you just, the notes that I've made here, could you just annotate them on to your sheet? So I'm going to do this one as just an example. Les gens jettent. I will get rid of that. So there's some space. So could you just, the notes I've made here, can you just add them in and annotate them onto your sheet before we move on to the next step? Right, lovely. So next element that we need to consider then is actually just knowledge of vocab, which seems like an obvious thing. I'm going over and over and over again and again and again, but we need to work out here what's going on. So I'm going to just get highlighter again, and anything I'm going to assume that I'm you, and I'm going to say anything that we're unsure of, we're just going to highlight, and then we're going to look those things up separately. So if we're starting at the beginning, I'm going to just assume here we don't know the word for rubbish, even though I think some of you do know it pretty well. Serious problem, I've seen that before somewhere. Oh yeah, we had it at the very beginning with homelessness. So I'm going to put that to you to see if you can work out what it is. In my area, bit unsure of that, so I'm going to highlight this. People, okay, I know that. Les gens, we've put throwaway. Lots of I'm fine with. Bit unsure about things, so I'm going to highlight that. Pollute, I've already said. The earth, I don't know what that is, I'm going to highlight it. Last year, know that. Village is just the same. 100 tons of rubbish. Don't have a clue what that is. So I'm going to just highlight this. Rubbish, I've already had it earlier on, so I know what I'm doing now. I don't have to highlight it again. In my opinion, I'm fine with. Too many, I'm alright with that. Plastic bags, not really sure. I would like less, I'm okay with that. Rubbish, I've seen it twice, so I'm just repeating myself again. I am going to buy, and then green, well I know the word for green, but I'm not really sure about the word for products, okay? So, in the exam, hopefully you would be able to look at the translation and know the majority of things that come up, because that is going to be the end point where your knowledge is at its broadest and it's at its richest, and you know everything. As we approach translations, particularly like this for homework and tasks like that, an element has to be that you are looking things up, you're checking online. Word reference is your best port of call because it's going to give you the detail beyond just telling you what the word means. Google Translate is all right, but it will just give you a word, and sometimes it cannot be what you need it to be. It could give you something just a bit out there. There's not one in there that would be an example, but there's things that would come up. So, you know, the word like, if you just put like in, it's going to give you, there's two different possibilities for like in French. So you've got to use something that's going to give you the thing that you need, and word reference is the best place to do it. So for the purposes of this, I'm also going to pause as word reference. And again, I'm just going to make notes of what it is that I need. So rubbish, not sure what that is. What are my options? I've looked it up. I've got déchet, which hopefully some of you should start to remember. Another word that comes up in the exam actually is ordure, just synonym for the same thing. Area, all right, I've checked this. Well, guess what? I can just use région, so it's not that difficult. Things, key little phrase here actually, because this comes up a lot. Things, you might remember this, it might jog a memory. Choses, les choses. The earth, nice word here actually, la terre, with a capital T. This will come up next lesson, so we've probably already had this conversation, but linked to things like terrestrial. If you're an extraterrestrial, you come from outside of planet Earth. If an animal is a terrestrial animal, it lives on the ground. Terracotta, stonework is literally baked earth. So there's lots and lots of connections here. The terrestrial army, is that a thing? Terrestrial, I think my mind's going blank now. Loads of words to do with tear with words in it. Terrarium grows plants in earth in the ground and things like that. Right, 100 is going to be, I'm going to put the number 1 with 100 is just the simple word cent, as in cent, as in century. US currency, cents, or the euro actually. So they don't have pennies, they have cents because 100 cents make a dollar or a euro. Tons is actually just the word ton, so tons, done. Plastic bags is probably going to be the trickier thing here. We've got bags is sac, little s, and then we need a little en, but we're then going to put plastique. So it's plastic but with QE on the end rather than just a C. And then the final thing that we have on here is products. Actually a bit of an easy one too, because products is going to be produit. And actually, if we're making links with words, the verb that we had here, produce, was produire. So that produit bit is running through here twice. Okay, so we've got it appearing both times. Again, can you just make, if you're following this through as we go, can you make some annotations onto your sheet of some of this vocab, please? Okay. And then, last step, we're going to work on the translation together. There's actually a little catch in some of these. There's a lot of plurals that we have as well that we need to just keep an eye on. Okay, so we've worked out rubbish is les déchets. Les déchets, c'est. And then we said, oh, we know this serious problem. C'est un. Now, this is the first example where we need to do a bit of an inversion, and this is going to happen again in the translation as well. C'est un problème. C'est un problème grave. Okay. In my, put a full stop there. Dans ma région. I'm also worried that this won't fit on the sheet. People, so we'd established when we looked at the grammar, people is les gens. So again, I'm including that les all the time, just a stylistic thing that they always do in French. They always use the article for the. So literally, the rubbish is a big problem or serious problem. The people. And we'd said on our thing it's going to be jet, really difficult verb to deal with here. I don't think you'd get anything as difficult as this in the exam. So les gens jettent beaucoup de, so lots of, beaucoup de, and then things we said was choses. Little word for that, we're just going to use qui, as in which or who, qui, and then pollue, ENT running through again because it's actually still this les gens, les déchets, les gens, les gens jettent, ENT, beaucoup de choses qui polluent, because it's the choses now that we're also following in as a plural, and then we had earth is la terre, full stop. Last year, so I'm going to do l'an dernier, du l'an dernier, you could do l'année dernière, my village, mon village, a little a, jeter, again a really difficult verb use, really difficult. 100 tons, 100, that is 100, that all just means 100. 100 tonnes of de, and I know I said there were two different options for rubbish. In the translation, no extra marks for variety or anything, so let's just use déchet again and again and again. So we've got déchet, full stop. There's loads of space for this actually. In my opinion, à mon avis, I'm going to go with new because I enjoy new. So nous utilisons, ONS, too many, so trop de, and then we had plastic bags, which was sac en plastique. Wonderful. And then I'm going to just start on this line. I would like, je voudrais, and we said produce was produire, so that little produit bit. Less, moins. Now, again, stylistically, we need to put in a de with a quantity. We had it here with trop de, and we're coming again with moins de. Again, rubbish, déchet. I apologise about my handwriting as well. And et je vais. So I am going, and we'd said to buy, it's just going to be acheter. Now, again, stylistically, we're going to drop in a little de here. If you leave that out, you would not lose marks. And guess what? I've got another little inversion on this. So des produits, ooh, that is a U, des produits, and green, vert, and there's an S on the end because it's products. So we're going to make that a green. But again, exam, you would not lose any marks for it too. Okay, so that's how to approach a pretty difficult translation. Knowledge of vocab is everything. Do I know what this thing is in the first place? And that goes for the verbs as well. Do I know that throwaway is jeter? Do I know that pollute is polluer? Acheter, to buy, all that kind of stuff. Then having the knowledge to work through the grammar. As I've said, this is a tough one, really, really difficult stuff. But you need to be able to apply the grammar, and that is a big, big, big part of the translation into French. If we just look again before I finish up, it's had a bit of a spread. So we've got present tense, present tense, present tense. Then it's gone into the past tense. Then it's come back to the present tense quite briefly, and then it's gone conditional and future, and it tends to follow that structure: present, 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 something in the past, and then to the future at the end. So at least we can start to get used to that structure for the exam. Okay, well done everybody. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.